The music had stopped, but the air was screaming. The general stood at the door like a giant statue carved from granite. His eyes were red, not just from the wind, but from a fire burning deep inside. He looked at his wife, Zara, in her short red dress, sweating and panting. He looked at Femi, the young houseboy, whose heart was beating so loud it sounded like a drum in an empty room. Before this story goes deeper, pause now. Subscribe to this channel. You don't want to hear this story halfway and miss the next one. Join the family now. Femi was on his knees. His face was buried in the expensive rug. He was shaking like a leaf during Harmattan. He knew that men like the general did not shout, they just acted, and their actions usually involved guns or heavy boots. "What is going on here?" the general asked again. His voice was low, heavy, and dangerous. Zara's mind was racing fast, like a car with no brakes. She knew she had seconds to save her life. She forced a cough and touched her eye. "Honey," she cried out, her voice fake and high. "Oh, thank God you are here. Something entered my eye, an insect. It was stinging me. I was about to fall because I couldn't see." She pointed at Femi with a shaking finger. "And Femi, he just caught me before I fell. He was trying to blow the insect from my eye. Oh, my eye, it hurts." Femi froze. He heard the lie hanging in the air. It was a stupid lie. It was a thin lie, but it was the only rope thrown to him in a drowning river. The general looked at Zara. He looked at her eye, which was perfectly clear. Then he looked down at Femi. "Is this true, boy?" the general asked. Femi swallowed a lump in his throat that felt like a stone. He raised his head slightly, but he did not dare look into the lion's eyes. Yes, sir," Femi stammered. Madam almost fell, sir. I was just helping, sir, I swear." The silence that followed was heavy. It lasted for 1 second, 2 seconds, 10 seconds. The soldiers behind the general gripped their guns tighter. Zara held her breath. Femi squeezed his eyes shut, waiting for the slap, waiting for the kick, waiting for the end of his life. Then the general broke the silence. "An insect," the general said, nodding slowly. He unbuckled his belt, but instead of using it, he simply adjusted his trousers. "The house needs fumigation then." He walked past them into the house. The smell of his cologne, strong, woody, and sharp, filled the room, choking the smell of Zara's perfume. "Go to bed, Femi," the general ordered without looking back. Femi scrambled up from the floor. He ran. He didn't walk. He fled to his room like a rat seeing light. He locked the door, pushed the chair against it, and sat on his bed, gasping for air. His chest hurt. He checked his body to be sure he was still alive. Upstairs, Zara stood in the hallway. Her legs were weak. She watched her husband walk into their bedroom. He didn't shout. He didn't ask more questions. He acted as if nothing had happened. The general lay on his bed that night, staring at the ceiling. He did not sleep. He was a man of war. He knew that to catch an enemy, you don't strike when they are alert. You wait. You feed them. You make them comfortable. And then when they think they are safe, you strike. Femi prayed that night. "God, please just let morning come. If morning comes, I will run." But morning came, and the sun rose, and the cage was still golden, and the door was still shut. The false peace had begun. 1 month passed. The mansion was quiet again. To an outsider, it looked like paradise. The flowers bloomed, the cars shined, and the food was delicious. But inside, Femi was walking on broken glass. The general did not travel back to the army base immediately. He stayed home on leave. This meant Femi saw him every day. Every morning, Femi would wake up with a stomach ache from fear. He would clean the house with his head down. He avoided the corridors. He avoided eye contact. He became a ghost in the house. Zara played the part of the perfect wife. She cooked for her husband. She laughed at his jokes. She dressed modestly, wearing long gowns that covered her shape. She acted as if Femi did not exist. When she passed him, she would look away, her face hard and cold. Femi thought, maybe it is over, maybe she has forgotten, maybe I am safe. But the general was the one who surprised him. The general was kind. Femi, the general would call him in a booming, friendly voice. Come and watch football with me. Femi would sit on the edge of the sofa, terrified, while the general cheered for Chelsea or Arsenal. You are a good boy, the general said one evening, peeling an orange. You remind me of myself when I was young, hardworking, honest, innocent. He emphasized the word innocent. He looked at Femi with a smile that showed all his white teeth, but his eyes remained flat, like a shark's eyes. Thank you, sir, Femi whispered. Kola, the general's son, made it harder. The little boy loved Femi. He followed him everywhere. Big brother Femi, help me with my homework. Big brother Femi, let's play ball. Femi loved the boy, but every time he looked at Kola, he felt guilty. He felt like a thief who had tried to steal from the boy's father. One Tuesday evening, the pressure became too much. The general was in his study, and Zara was in the garden. Femi went to his room and took a piece of paper. His hands were shaking so much that his handwriting looked like chicken scratches. Dear sir, I want to resign. My mother is sick in the village. I need to go home. Thank you for everything. Femi. It was a lie, but he needed to leave. He packed his bag. He was ready. He walked to the living room where the general and Zara were sitting. His legs felt heavy, like lead. Sir, Femi said, his voice cracking. Madam. He stretched out the paper. The general took it and read it slowly. Zara watched from the corner of her eye, her face tight. You want to leave? The general asked, putting the paper down. Why? My mother, sir, Femi lied. She is sick. The general stood up. He walked over to Femi and placed a heavy hand on his shoulder. The hand felt like a clamp. Femi, the general sighed. We have phones. We can call her. We can send money. You don't need to go. If you go, who will teach Kola mathematics? Who will wash my car the way I like it? But, sir. No buts, the general said firmly. You are family now. You cannot just leave family. Listen, I will double your salary. I will send money to your mother myself. You stay, okay? It wasn't a question. It was a command. Femi looked at Zara. He hoped she would say, let him go. He hoped she would scream at him to leave. But Zara looked at him, and for a split second, a small, victorious smile played on her lips. She knew he was trapped. Thank the honey, Femi, Zara said softly. Femi felt tears stinging his eyes. He had more money now, yes. He was sending thousands to his village. His parents were building a new house, but he was a prisoner. Thank you, sir, Femi whispered. Good, the general clapped his back hard. Now go and serve dinner. Femi walked back to the kitchen. He realized then that the general knew. The general was keeping him close. Why? To punish him, to watch him, or was he really just kind? Femi did not know, and that not knowing was worse than the fear. He was a fly caught in a web, and the spider was smiling at him, feeding him sugar. The piece was like a thin layer of ice on a deep river, and suddenly it cracked. The general announced he had to travel. It was an emergency security meeting in Abuja. He would be gone for 2 weeks. Take care of the house, the general told Femi as he entered his car. He looked Femi deep in the eyes. Take care of my family, I trust you. The word trust hit Femi like a stone. Yes, sir, safe journey, sir. As the convoy drove away, dust swirling in the air, Femi felt a cold shiver. He turned around and Zara was standing at the door. The modest wife act dropped instantly. Her shoulders relaxed. Her hips swayed. The predator was back. For the first 2 days, Femi hid in his room. He only came out to do essential work. He prayed. He read his Bible. Lord, lead me not into temptation. But temptation has a key to the door. On the 3rd night, a storm raged over Lagos. Thunder crashed and the lights went out. The generator hummed in the distance. Femi was in his room when he heard sobbing, crying. It was coming from the living room. He tried to ignore it, But the crying got louder, more desperate. He was a kind boy. His heart was soft. That was his flaw. He could not ignore pain. He walked out slowly with a torchlight. "Ma, is everything okay?" Zara was sitting on the floor in the dark, drinking wine. She looked broken. "He doesn't love me, Femi," she wept. "He leaves me alone. He treats me like furniture. I am lonely. I am so lonely." Femi stood at a distance. "Ma, please stand up. Go to sleep." "Help me," she reached out a hand. "Just help me up." Femi hesitated. He remembered the last time, but she looked so weak, so sad. He stepped forward and took her hand to pull her up. She stood up, stumbling into him. The torchlight fell from his hand. Darkness surrounded them. "Ma!" Her hands were on his face. She was crying, but her touch was burning. "You are the only one who sees me, Femi. You are the only one who cares. Don't you feel it? Don't you feel the fire?" Femi was trembling. He was 22. He was a man. His body was fighting his mind. The fear of the general was great, but the general was far away in Abuja. The woman was here, warm and soft and begging him. "We will die," Femi whispered, his voice choking. "We are already dead if we don't live," she replied. And then she kissed him. It was not like the movies. It was desperate. It was messy. It was full of fear and anger and need. Femi's resistance broke like a dam. All the confusion, all the loneliness of the big city, all the strange power she held over him, it all crashed down. He did not run this time. That night the houseboy became the man of the house. The forbidden fruit was eaten. The line was crossed. But it didn't stop there. Once the door was opened, it couldn't be closed. For the next 10 days they lived in a bubble of madness. Zara was reckless. She would pull him into corners. She would come to his room at night. Femi lived in a state of high terror. Every sound made him jump. Every phone ring made his heart stop. He was no longer a virgin, but he felt like he had lost more than just that. He had lost his peace. He looked in the mirror and didn't see the innocent village boy anymore. He saw a traitor. There were close calls. One afternoon, Kola came home early from school because he was sick. Femi and Zara were on the sofa. They scrambled apart just seconds before the boy walked in with his nanny. "Uncle Femi, why are you sweating?" Kola asked innocently. "I was exercising," Femi lied. Lying to the boy broke Femi's heart. He went to the bathroom and washed his face, looking at his shaking hands. "What have I done?" he asked himself. "There is no going back now. The general will kill me." But Zara was glowing. She looked younger. She was happy. She felt she had won. She did not know that her victory was the fuel for a fire that would burn them all to ashes. The general returned on a Friday afternoon. The house was spotless. Femi stood by the door, head bowed, hands behind his back. He felt like the word betrayer was tattooed on his forehead. But the general just smiled, hugged his wife, and patted Femi on the back. "Good to be home," the general said. "Femi, you look thin. Are you not eating?" "I am eating, sir, just stress." "Stress? Don't worry. Tomorrow is my birthday. We will have a big party. You will eat and drink and be happy." The birthday party. It was meant to be a celebration, but to Femi, it felt like a funeral preparation. Saturday evening arrived. The mansion was transformed. Expensive cars lined the street. Generals, politicians, and business tycoons filled the compound. There was a live band playing high-life music. The smell of jollof rice and grilled fish filled the air. Femi was dressed in a crisp white uniform. He carried a silver tray with drinks. He moved through the crowd like a robot. "Champagne, sir. Water, ma." His hands shook so much the glasses clinked together. He saw Zara across the room. She was wearing a gold dress that glittered under the lights. She looked beautiful, but her eyes were darting around nervously. She knew, too. The guilt was heavy in the room, thicker than the smoke from the barbecue. The general was laughing, shaking hands, playing the perfect host. At 9:00 p.m. the music lowered. It was time for speeches. The general stood on a small stage in the living room. He held a microphone. Everyone clapped. Thank you, my friends, the general began, his voice deep and smooth. I thank God for adding another year to my life. A soldier's life is not promised. Amen, the crowd shouted. I thank my beautiful wife, Zara, he pointed to her. Zara smiled, but her hand clutched her purse tightly. For keeping the home warm while I am away fighting for this country. Femi stood in the corner, trying to melt into the wall. He wanted the floor to open and swallow him. And the general continued, turning his eyes toward the corner. I must thank my staff, especially this young man here, Femi. The spotlight swung to Femi. The guests clapped. Come here, boy, the general beckoned. Femi walked forward. His legs felt like jelly. He stood beside the general. This boy, the general put an arm around Femi's shoulder. He is young, but he is loyal. He takes care of my house. He teaches my son. In a world full of snakes, it is hard to find a dove. Thank you, Femi. Femi felt tears running down his face. The guests thought they were tears of gratitude, but they were tears of pure torture. To be praised by the man you betrayed is a punishment worse than beating. Thank you, sir, Femi choked out. Now, the general said, his tone changing slightly. I have a surprise, a little entertainment to end the night. He picked up a remote control. I installed a new smart home system recently. High-definition cameras. Security is important, you know. Let us see some memories. He pointed the remote at the giant 85-inch television screen on the wall. The screen flickered to life. It wasn't a slideshow of family photos. It was grainy, black and white footage. It showed the living room. It showed the date 2 weeks ago. The room went dead silent. The only sound was the hum of the air conditioner. On the screen, Zara pulled Femi onto the sofa. On the screen, clothes were removed. On the screen, the betrayal was played out in high definition for the general, the politicians, the soldiers, and the whole world to see. Zara let out a sound, a strangled scream, and collapsed into a chair. Femi stood on the stage, the general's arm still around his shoulder. He stopped breathing. His heart stopped beating. The general didn't look at the screen. He looked at the crowd. His face was calm, terrifyingly calm. You see, the general said softly into the microphone, I told you snakes are hard to find. But sometimes you just have to turn on the light. Chaos exploded like a bomb. Women screamed, men gasped. The party ended in a second. Guards, the general's voice cut through the noise like a knife. 4 soldiers rushed into the room. They didn't need orders. They knew what to do. They grabbed Femi. They didn't hold him gently. They dragged him. Sir, please, sir, Femi screamed, his feet scraping across the expensive tiles he had cleaned for months. The general turned his back on him. He picked up his glass of wine and took a slow sip. Zara was on the floor holding the general's leg. Bayo, please, it was a mistake. It was the devil, please. The general looked down at her with zero emotion. It was as if he was looking at a cockroach. Get her out, he said to another guard. Pack her things in garbage bags. Throw them outside the gate. If she enters this compound again, shoot her legs. Bayo, my son, Kola, she screamed as they dragged her away. Femi was thrown into the back of a military truck. It smelled of rust and dried blood. The drive was short but felt like eternity. They took him to the barracks, to a small, dark guardroom. They didn't take his life. Death would have been too easy. They beat him. They beat the arrogance out of him. They beat the desire out of him. They beat him until he forgot his own name. He lay on the cold concrete floor for 3 days. His handsome face was swollen. His body was a map of bruises. He cried until he had no tears left. He thought of his village. He thought of his mother. He thought of Kakai's advice. This was the jackpot, Kakai had said. This was the prize. On the 4th day, the door opened. The light hurt his eyes. The general stood there. He was dressed in his full uniform. He looked clean, powerful, untouched. Get up, the general said. Femi tried, but his legs failed. He crawled to the wall and sat up. I could end you, the general said conversationally. No one would ask. You are a nobody, a village boy who got lost. I am sorry, sir, Femi whispered through swollen lips. Sorry is for accidents, the general said. What you did was a choice, but I will let you live. You know why? Femi shook his head painfully. Because living with the memory of what you threw away is a worse punishment. You had a future. You had my trust. You had a chance to be someone. The general threw a small envelope on the floor. That is a bus ticket back to your village. If I ever see you in Lagos again, if I ever hear your name, you will just disappear. The general turned and walked away. The door was left open. Femi limped out of the barracks hours later. He had no bag. He had no designer clothes. He wore torn trousers and a dirty shirt. He had no money, only the ticket. He walked to the bus park. People looked at him with disgust. They saw a madman. They saw a beggar. He sat in the back of the bus as it moved away from the bright lights of Lagos. He watched the city fade into the distance. He remembered his mother's words. Do not let the city swallow you. The city had not just swallowed him. It had chewed him up and spat him out. And Zara stood outside the big black gate of the mansion. Her clothes were in black trash bags on the dusty street. It was raining again. She pounded on the gate. Open the gate, please. But the gate remained shut. The golden cage was locked forever. Moral lesson. Desire without discipline destroys destinies. No matter the temptation, integrity is more valuable than pleasure, and a good name will always outlive secret sins. What you hide in darkness will one day speak loudly in the light. If this story touched your heart, shocked your soul, or made you pause for 1 second, don't scroll past. Subscribe now. This channel is for real Nigerian stories, deep lessons, raw emotions, and twists you won't see coming anywhere else. Tap the subscribe button, turn on the bell, because the next story might change how you see life, love, and temptation forever. See you in my next video. Thank you.